We have a massive report as the Montreal Canadiens have officially inquired about acquiring Dylan Cozens from the Buffalo Sabres. Dylan Cozens on a pretty big contract, but this could be a game changer for Montreal as he could be that number 2 center they are looking for. We got to dive into Dylan Cozens this season, the report itself, and what this means for the Habs come trade deadline. But Jesse, we also got to talk about some of our Russian prospects, and yes, some Ivan Demidov, but not just him. Yevgeny Volokhin is putting on a clinic right now in net as a 19-year-old rookie. There's a bunch of good stuff to get into coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But guys, before we get into it, I haven't done this in a while. I'd like to see a like goal today. I want 800 likes. We've been getting crazy amounts of likes. Honestly, that might even be too low, but it helps us out a ton. It's easy for you. So if you wouldn't mind, leave it down below, or even a dislike if you want. That's up to you. But hey, we really appreciate all the support. Jesse, let's start talking about Ivan Demidov. So these new stat cards from Byron Bader have been getting posted recently. We got into that Lane Hudson one just a little while ago, but for Ivan Demidov, they just got updated. He said this is what superstars look like. When they look like this in their draft year and then they look like this in their post-draft year, they turn into superstars nearly every time. Montreal likely has a franchise great on their hands with Demidov, and you can see the draft year comps: Connor McDavid, Mario Lemieux, full comps, Wayne Gretzky, Patrick Kane, Paul Kariya, Celebrini, and McDavid. And they have him compared to Eichel even as well. Jesse, this is, look, we knew he was good, but a lot of the models coming out now are painting him as maybe even more of a superstar, if that was even possible, than we once thought.
For sure. And if Ivan Demidov is having the type of year that he's having in his draft year, for sure he's getting selected even higher than that 5th overall. Like, the hype is real. It's not just us saying it. And again, Josh, like, these numbers are very telling. They are actually the reason why, like, these advanced stats of why you see that drafting is getting better in the NHL year after year. They're using these underlying numbers and they're being able to make these solid projections rather going forward. And it is extremely accurate, these models. So extremely, very interesting to notice here. Again, a better draft plus year than Eichel, actually considerably, 70 compared to Eichel's 53, right? So we're seeing, like, with Lane Hudson, we're seeing the comparisons, the full comparisons to, like, a Paul Coffey, Brian Lee. So that's who we got on the back end. And now it's basically saying we're having somebody like a Wayne Gretzky type Connor McDavid on the front end. Like, this is a throwback, just kind of all-star team. But I mean, it's not just us, right? Like, the numbers are saying this too.
Yeah, I can't even believe him sometimes. So someone, because you notice he does say nearly every time in the original tweet. Someone asked him, "Hey, like, you say nearly, who's the one that didn't?" He said, "Well, he said everyone with this model in the history of his model has been a, like, point per game superstar. The only one that wasn't was Robert Reichel back in the 90s. He was drafted in 89. The dude still had 2 40-goal seasons and was above a point per game twice." So just some context. But it's not just him. We got to talk about Demidov, of course. It's amazing, but it's not just him, Jesse. One of our goalie prospects has been rolling lately, and that's Yevgeny Volokhin. He stopped 39 of 44 shots in his last game, which is quite solid. Stopped 385 out of his last 419. I'll link this video to his recent highlights down below from Hab Prospect videos. And he's currently rocking a .908 save percentage as a 19-year-old rookie goalie in the KHL. Now, some KHL goalie stats are very, very good. Some of them are maybe inflated for certain other players. So a .908 probably looks a little better than it might actually be, but regardless, you watch the highlights, he looks good. I also don't think his weight is accurate. I don't think he's 167. I think he's gotten heavier. But regardless, Jesse, he's a guy we've been mentioning since last year in his incredible run there in the MHL. Even this year in the MHL, he was so dominant in 8 games. He's coming up. He's playing for Sochi, and this dude is rolling.
Again, you know, his first year in the KHL at 19, obviously, and just getting a little bit of time. Like, that's all that he needed, was just getting a little bit more game time. And now the stats are kind of coming as a result. But it's not just that. Like, it's the saves that he's doing, leaping across the net to make, looking really athletic out there, but also, like, the timing. We're seeing he's making some big saves sometimes, like when the game is tied and when they need him to kind of do something. Like, he's doing it. Like, he's battling. He's giving it everything you have. I think, like, one thing that jumps off the page from him is, like, this guy competes in net. You know, the technique's going to come a little bit more, but, like, this guy's putting everything. He's getting in front of the pucks. He's confident. He's getting up in front, cutting out those angles. So, I mean, amazing progression for a very interesting prospect for the Habs here.
Yeah, I just love talking about him. Like, again, like you said, you watch him in net, like, there are moments where he still looks sloppy, but what 6'3" lanky 19-year-old doesn't, right? Like, he could get better at maybe getting back to a neutral position faster, things like that. But again, the numbers speak for themselves. Like, the the dude's having a pretty solid season over there. So just wanted to shout him out. He's been very interesting to follow, and I think you guys might want to keep an eye on him. But Jesse, it's time to get into the big news today. And we got to talk about Dylan Cozens. Now, we've talked about him before. Montreal's never officially been linked. Until now, Kevin Weeks, and speaking to sources, I'm told that there's plenty of expressions of interest from clubs in the Sabres, clubs in Sabres forward Dylan Cozens, including the Montreal Canadiens, the Calgary Flames, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Detroit Red Wings. Now, we've heard other people say that, 2/3 of the league have inquired about him, but the Habs have expressed some interest in trading for him, which is one of the big interesting things here. The Flames make a lot of sense, Leafs maybe not so much, but Jesse, this is interesting. Now, we have talked a lot about Dylan Cozens on this channel. Of course, he's not having a great year. He's on pace for about 40 points this season, which is really bad and a far cry from his prime season 2 years ago when he was 21, had 31 goals. He's on a $7 million contract. But as we know, the Buffalo Sabres are not a great situation. From 2022-23 to 23-24, it wasn't just him who took a statistical dip. A lot of the Sabres did as well. And this year, he's been playing with really not that great line mates. Like, he hasn't had a good chance to play with some of the Sabres' top producers. He's good on the faceoff dot up to 50% as a 23-year-old. My issue here is that I think it would be a gamble. You're trading for a guy with a $7 million contract, and also the Buffalo Sabres don't want future draft picks in this deal. Kevin Adams has made that clear. What do you think about the Habs being interested? I'd love to hear that they're expressing interest, and I don't know, the more I think about it, if the price isn't that crazy, I'm really not opposed.
It's very interesting here because we were just reporting yesterday from the fourth period, Dave Pagnotta saying like a Kirby Dach type of trade happening as soon as the trade deadline or kind of shortly thereafter. Is this that type of trade? Would a type of Dylan Cozens trade involve a Kirby Dach? I mean, you would have to think so. Again, there's a lot of risk right there. Another 5 more years at $7.1 million. At the same time, we're seeing from that highlight reel, the pros is that he's got a shot, he's a sniper, and he's winning the majority of his draws this year, 50.4% there. Ken Hughes, if he's doing this trade, for me, there's a little bit too much risk. I think we want to get somebody established on second. But at the same time, Ken Hughes is probably thinking, look at the list of players that have went from the Sabres and flourished elsewhere. I think there's a lot of risk here involved still, but I mean, being one of those 4 teams that are maybe kind of hanging around after the better part of the league has kind of checked, it's saying something where maybe Kent Hughes is seeing something here. Obviously, it's all about the fit, as we know, and he definitely wants to get these younger type players. I'm not sure if it's the right fit, but I mean, I got trust, in Kent Hughes. If he's looking into this, maybe there's something a little bit more to it.
I mean, I don't think there needs to be anything more to it then. He was a 2019 draft pick. That seems to be the criteria for bringing in people to Montreal, right? I'm just saying. But here, the thing is, too, again, looking at these past years, how many players in the league can you say that at the age of 21 were playing primarily center and put up 68 points with 31 goals? That right there is the thing that's either going to hold up or make this deal happen, right? Teams like Buffalo's going to want to get the value for saying, look what he did when he was 21. We could say that's an outlier, but his shooting percentage, it was a lot higher than his career average of 14.7% that year. But his assist totals were also up. It's not that crazy. His plus minus was the best of his career. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like that player is still inside there, Jesse. And I do wonder if going to another team where he's not playing with a guy nothing against Jiri Kulich or something, but that's been a popular line mate of Dylan Cozens. But just maybe one final question on this. If he does come to the Habs, do you think he's given that 2C spot kind of right away over Kirby Dach? I mean, his production this year, look, Dach's production's not been great this year either. He's bounced back a bit, had a good game against the Sharks. But I think if the Habs go and land him, I think they're going to try and give him as much opportunity to succeed as possible right away to see if they can recreate that incredible 22-23 season.
And that's what's spicy about this and why I mentioned Kirby Dach, because you have to feel like those are kind of 2 similar type of positions, chairs, as Martin St. Louis likes to coin it. It's so you'd have to feel like he would be involved kind of going the other way. Obviously, we would need to add to Dach in this. Cozens has proven a little bit more. I mean, There is a lot to like. We would like a little bit more, maybe the playmaking, but the Habs need the goal scoring over 30 goals, and then considering a little bit of a down year where he's hitting 18. Well, that's not too terrible. For sure, you'd like a little bit more assists for just overall the point production, but for a team that just needs kind of more 20, goal scorers plus, I mean, that's not terrible whatsoever. So, of course, he kind of wants to rebound a little bit more this year here, kind of going forward. I mean, I've liked this player. Like, he stood out for me on the World Juniors. Like, he's probably one of my favorite players on this team. And then see him have success. There's something to it. Like, he's still a young player. Like, there's going to be some very good odds of him hitting some good numbers over the course of his career. I think that Kent Hughes knows that. But for me, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think from the Kirby Dach situation with some other players, like I just want to know that like when we're shooting that shot that like we know it's going to go right in.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like I said, it's a gamble. It's a lot of money for a guy that's not worth it at this very second. Could grow into it, but as the years go on, his stats are getting worse. He's on pace for his lowest point production in many years. His giveaway to takeaway numbers, they're getting worse every single year, though that's not really a predictor of whether you'll be good or not. I don't know. Like, we showed those stats again. I'm not so sold. Minus 17 this year. Now, Buffalo's struggling too. That plays a lot into it, but his face-off numbers are going up, and his line mates have not been that good. Only has that 1 power play goal this year as well. Only 2 power play assists. 3 power play points is pretty low for him, so I want to hear what you guys have to say, because this is a real interesting part. Let us know down below your thoughts on Dylan Cozens potentially joining the Habs, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, guys. You've been supporting like crazy, and we could not be more appreciative. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.